Anyone who's played Medarot 2 Core knows exactly just how much of a nightmare this mechanical baby has been, and the PTSD will continue to uphold. It is BAY00 Primity Baby with a kit of Force Control, Defense Seal, Hypercrept, Float Legs, and the leg ability of Auto Repair, which passively restores HP to all parts over time as the battle draws out and progresses. Now, compared to how Primity Baby was in earlier games, where it was an absolute nightmare and terror to deal with as a boss and even a secret boss type, thankfully in Medarot, as even though it is designed to be a boss type still, it is definitely more manageable to combat and fight, and definitely not as much of a terror as it used to be. Force Control is simply the shooting variant of Metaforce Seal with the exact same effect, meaning that once inflicted on the target, they will be incapable of unleashing Metaforce at all on their enemy, meaning that no matter how long they charge or how often they charge, they will not be allowed to unleash it. But this does still allow them to make use of Metaforce bonuses, such as, say, Beam, Hyper Beam, Beam Sword, Laser, break, hammer press. Anything that does have a charge requirement will still work all the same as intended beforehand. They just will not be able to use Metaforce. Right Arm of Defense Seal is a shooting-based skill that basically will inflict no defend on the enemy, guaranteeing that every hit that lands is absolutely going to be a critical hit and absolutely lay on the pain as far as the attack will allow. And then last but not least, with the left arm of Hypercrept, is arguably one of the better support skills in the game, as it will choose 2 random buffs across, within a pool, which includes guard boost, shoot boost, mobile boost, and so on. Choose 2 at random and apply both of those buffs to every ally across the team that is still alive and intact. Meaning that because it is at random, this buff can be stacked multiple times to absolutely maximize the effect of buffs that you'll be granted while it's still using Hypercrept. And given that Primity Baby is also using Float Legs, means that it will have pretty solid coverage on most terrains as you expect of any other float-based leg, just not as, say, absurdly broken as such as Spinag or Artemis or even Metal Eater, to name a few examples. Now, honestly, even though Primity Baby was not designed to be a combat type, and mostly was better designed to be an interrupter and more or less just a nightmare and a frustration and nuisance on the field, Primity Baby thankfully does still kind of maintain that to a point, but focus more on support and granting buffs to other allies more than actually trying to attack or even damage or knock out enemy bots. Given the fact that Force Control simply just prevents them from using Metaforce, and Defense Seal just makes it easier for someone to come behind and nuke them much harder than Primity Baby himself is ever capable of. And the auto repair ability does honestly make his relatively tanky kit more difficult to combat, given that he will be passively restoring HP over time, meaning anything that's not broken immediately, you will have to spend a little more time having to knock out just to kind of make up what you lost that he healed back. That being said, as a pure set score across the board, for his rather tanky and very solid support-based and interruption-based kit, I do have to rate him a pretty solid 7 out of 10 for what he does offer, given that he is very solid for, as I mentioned, for support-based buffs with Hypercrept, as well as just getting in the general, just becoming a general nuisance with both Force Control and Defense Seal, basically making him a very solid interrupter for any team that needs someone to prepare the target for the nuker to come behind. As mixed parts, on the other hand, I have to rate very equally at a 7 out of 10 as well, given that the coverage that Primity Baby offers can be very evenly spread and is very friendly across scattered builds as well, given that, like I said, that Hypercrept is a very solid skill to make use of and is only one of a handful of bots that actually have it, just between female or male type bots alone for that very reason. And then, of course, Float Legs in general, you really can't ever go wrong with either for A rank on every terrain, and of course S on Cyber, especially for that passive healing ability that the auto repair will give you.